And so the idea that they moved to take out Charlie Kirk because he, like everybody, was maybe having some second thoughts or maybe some doubts about very specific things. He wasn't anti-Jewish. He wasn't anti-Israel. He wasn't moving in that direction. He had doubts about specific things. To me, I find that very hard to believe.
The conspiracies regarding the death of Charlie Kirk continue to spiral into new depths. There are new theories now that there was a trap door under the stage. I made a video talking about that the other day. It was Candace Owens talking about it. Spoiler alert. Go watch that if you want to learn more. There have also been more theories that Tyler Robinson was not the actual shooter and is merely a patsy. Some people are saying that the actual shooter had tactical gear on and that he fled the scene. There have been more theories that the FBI is hiding information about the real shooter being a foreign asset. And amongst this flurry of conspiracies, of confusion, of who knows what is right and wrong, today the rubber is hitting the road in this conversation as Nick Fuentes joins Alex Jones on InfoWars to discuss the theory that Israel was behind the death of Charlie Kirk. Let's get into it.
I think that when you ask who benefits from the killing of Charlie Kirk, I would actually put Israel towards the bottom. When you look at if there's a series of different people, the reason I say that is because Charlie Kirk, as we know, was pro-Israel until the day that he was killed. And this is why it's a little bit puzzling to me. Like you said, I mean, a lot of people are now calling me a shill. They're saying I pivoted. I got the call from Netanyahu. They intimidated me into silence. The reason I say that is because right up until he died, my critique of Charlie Kirk is that he was too pro-Israel. And clearly there was an evolution going on. I think there's an evolution for everybody. I think everybody had in common on our side, whether it's J.D. Vance, you, me, Tucker, Charlie, everybody was talking about how Israel is driving us into a war with Iran and that their conflict in Gaza is overkill. I think that was sort of the consensus. And so the idea that they moved to take out Charlie Kirk because he, like everybody, was maybe having some second thoughts or maybe some doubts about very specific things. He wasn't anti-Jewish. He wasn't anti-Israel. He wasn't moving in that direction. He had doubts about specific things. To me, I find that very hard to believe. So in terms of who benefits, I think that Israel's maybe the least likely. And I would say that because Charlie Kirk might have been one of their few remaining true allies. I don't know that Israel would count Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens or you or me or so many people as better allies than him. I think he was pretty reliable and pretty solid. I think there is a credible angle, like you said, that who else might have wanted him dead? Well, people on the left. And I think that that was probably what motivated the Ryan Ruth character, who was just found guilty the other day. He was out there at Mar-a-Lago a year ago, as was Thomas Crooks, who took the shot against Trump last year. There were people last year that said that there might have been an Israeli conspiracy when Trump was shot in the ear. I asked the same question. Why exactly would they want him taken out when he was taking money from Miriam Adelson, when he was promising at that time to go to war with Iran, among other things?
Well, let me ask you this, and you keep going your train of thought. This is a key point. Clearly synthetic, immediate, instant attack on you within hours. That should tell us who was behind it or who'd piggyback to try to. Who would want to blame you? I mean, how does that feel within hours? So I've never had it this bad to literally be blamed everywhere. Then have Bill Maher do it, everybody else. Why would they target you immediately? Who would do that? A, and then B, who would target you and then push the story that you secretly work for Israel?
I think a lot of that stuff was coming from the left, to tell you the truth. I mean, I saw a lot of these synthetic posts accusing me of covering up for Israel. It was coming from a lot of far left groups like the American Communist Party with Jackson Hinkle. It was all those types of accounts. And what would be their benefit in accusing someone like myself of covering up for Israel? It's maybe to divert attention away from the radical left-wing theory. If the guy is a left-winger, if the killer is a left-winger, the left obviously wants to divert attention away from that. They want to deflect it. So what do? They blame the radical right. And then when it turns out it's not the radical right, well, then they say it's Israel. And the radical right's covering up for Israel if they blame the left.
Exactly. The bots are pushing us away from Soros and the left, who have the main motive. My gut, everything lined up, I'm not sure. But if it turns out there was help and it's starting to look like that, then it goes to the establishment left.
I think so. And I would also say, though, at the same time, you know who else benefits from all this immensely? It is the GOP. It just is. And you saw it in this memorial on Sunday. This was my critique of it. The real beneficiary of this entire thing is how the GOP is going to get to spin it. And they're going to say that this constitutes a new great awakening. This is the revival of conservatism.
And I was going to go there. I was going to say that.
So we've talked about this a lot before on my channel. There's a large fraction of the dissident right that believes that, and has believed from the beginning, that Israel was behind the death of Charlie Kirk. And at the beginning, I was kind of sympathetic towards this sentiment, I'll be honest. When I saw the bullet hit Charlie Kirk's neck, I thought it could be a possibility. There were reports going out that there was this plane funded by the Chabad Lubavitch, which is pretty much a Utah PAC, and it flew out of the Provo airport 12 minutes after Charlie Kirk was shot, and it turned off its tracking signals, which is illegal in United States airspace. And so I was thinking, what's behind that? That's kind of a smoking gun. You had George Zinn, a Jewish man, stand up right when Charlie Kirk was shot, distracting law enforcement so the shooter could escape, saying, "Shoot me now, shoot me now." Who does that? That's a death sentence right there. I would only think that somebody would do that if there was some behind-the-scenes conspiring going on, whether that be between Tyler and George Zinn himself or a third party was involved. Also, Bill Ackman, who has connections with a lot of high-level Israeli officials, paying money to Matt Robinson, who turned his son in, $1.1 million specifically. That was kind of concerning to me, at least. There's gossip that he would give that money to the family of Charlie Kirk, Matt Robinson, that is, but that turned out to be not true. So it's still, something that you should keep your eye on. However, among those things, there is no direct connection. There is no direct connection showing that Israel was behind the death of Charlie Kirk. And I think Alex and Nick succinctly describe as to why, Israel might not have had as much of a motivation as we thought to kill Charlie Kirk. There was news coming out that Charlie Kirk rejected a $150 million bonus to the funding of Turning Point USA by Netanyahu, and some people were using that as the motivation that Israel had to kill Charlie Kirk. However, does that make sense? Again, like Nick said, Charlie never really turned away from Israel and his support towards Israel. He might have been a bit wary about America bombing Iran, but that ended. Iran restrained itself, and the war ended. And so all we have to end this is what is in front of our eyes. All we know is what we've seen so far. Is there hidden information? For sure, 100%. Whether that information will be released in the future, that's a question to be had. Should you keep on asking questions? Yes, for sure. If more information comes out, if more evidence comes out that Israel could be involved in this, that Israel could have led to the death of Charlie Kirk, one of the pillars of the conservative community, yes, we need to keep our eyes open for that. However, right now we don't have that. We can change our minds later, but for now, let's relax and let's look at this objectively. The GOP is benefiting massively from this. I didn't watch the entire memorial for Charlie Kirk, but I was kind of taken aback as well when I saw voter registration booths up, tables, when I saw fireworks, when I saw Marco Rubio speaking at the funeral of Charlie Kirk. Yeah, all right, man. The GOP is benefiting massively from this, and you might be able to argue that Charlie Kirk would have wanted that. He would have wanted the message of the GOP to be espoused across the population, to get more eyes on the future leaders of the party, but I think it was kind of out of touch. Anyway, if you enjoyed this clip, subscribe for more. If you enjoy my voice, subscribe for more, although I don't see why you would. Leave a comment what your thoughts are on this. Is there any information, any evidence that I or Nick Fuentes are missing? There might be. If there is, leave a comment. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe.